So that's a whole nother topic.
This could have been a 5-hour talk.
Yeah.
I really cut things down.
Yeah, you did. So has somebody kind of like that are studying quantified that, like gone back and just done a lot of measurements?
No, I think it's something that still needs to be done.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
No, I encourage anybody to do real measurements on this stuff. I think, especially even the paddle wheel one, I believe that most of the energy was lost in creating turbulent flow rather than laminar flow. There's ways, like Griggs and stuff, they found there's ways of stirring water that heat it up much faster.
When I was watching that, I was thinking the extreme lack of precision.
Well, it's not just lack of precision, it's lack of creating a method that's efficient. Turning a paddle wheel in water causes massive cavitation behind the paddle and sucks the darn thing back. You're losing all the energy not to heat production, but to just drag in the water. Yeah, back EMF, right.
Well, you know, there's another thing that and this is kind of another thought. Well, this is another thought. Like then in this equation, then you've also got this.
The constant.
Well, no, this is measured in moles. It's supposed to be the number of molecules.
Oh, right.
But now I'm beginning to question. We've never checked to make sure that number remains constant with temperature. We've never actually we've never measured that deep. We don't know.
No.
I mean, you've got vacuums, you've got stuff popping in and out. So who's to say that number isn't changing too? I mean, I'm just not going to make any assumptions.
Well, the point is that anytime you have to create an equation that needs what Eric Dellert calls an official fudge factor,
Yeah.
you gotta want to think about it a second time. You know, the field is wide open. I think thermodynamics is so dead it's insane. And we're in a whole new world. There's no reason why any of these machines, can't just come forward. I know people who are building. I mean, the production of heat out of all kinds of things. You take a block of metal and stick it in a microwave oven. And for almost no energy at all, you can melt that stuff. It's just, I mean, I only touched 1%.
Now you're talking about the interaction of something in a way other than mechanical. You're talking about.
It doesn't matter. The point is that any of these things are not converting one form of energy into another. That's the point.
It's not a conversion.
It's not a conversion.
In fact, I was talking to somebody just the other day, and I said, when you look at the sun, and people are just 94 million miles away, and you're assuming that the way that you're getting the heat is the same way that you're experiencing heat from a candle, which drops off as a function of Q. And so do the calculations. It's 93
We'd be
million.
cold.
We'd
Really
be frozen.
cold.
And so the way that it's interacting is not the same way.
No, it's not the way they told us. No, it's different.
Well, they didn't really even tell us. They just didn't ask the question. They just let people make the assumption.
Right. But the point is that since all of this has been developing due to what I call military need, political expediency, and financial greed, the prime drivers. Okay. There is no military need for a general civilian public to know anything. And certainly no military need is served by providing the civilians with unlimited energy that the enemy could get also.
You already have it.
No.
Actually, I don't know. You put the military behind that. I would put it.
I'm only looking at history. I'm not saying that the military is a big driver
I
today.
would put commercial greed behind it, not the military.
You go back to Archimedes, you look at all. There weren't bankers back then. Believe me, it was the military need. It's not negative. I'm not trying to. This isn't a political statement.
I wasn't thinking political.
I'm looking at the history of it.
Yeah. No,
Almost all of these guys either went to jail or had to serve. They had to give their inventions to military uses. Da Vinci designed lots of
There is a
military
truth
things.
to that, but I'm thinking about like my grandfather. He was an inventor, and he worked for General Motors. He was actually labor leader too, and that which is kind of cool. And anyways, and so what happened was he knew of a man who built a hydrogen car, successful. And my sister remembers the name of it. I can't, never can. And they were selling it. But what happened was the gas company, the oil interest, put out a false rumor that it would explode.
Sure.
So that was commercial interest. It wasn't the military.
I agree.
Yes.
No, I agree. I'm not laying it all on the military. I'm saying that this is where it came from. All of these things have evolved. Don't forget that these three things, Eisenhower, as he left office, warned us against the military-industrial complex.
Beware.
Because all of these things were coming together. They were joining their agendas.
Well, and actually, if you look at the research in the colleges, most of the money being pumped in there is through the military. And it's not that, but I don't know that there's a...
It's not negative.
No, it's not
It is
negative.
the condition
It's just the
of
condition.
humanity
Yes.
today.
Yes, it's more a condition.
I'm not against these guys because look at the towel hills. I mean, if these guys knew how to take a laptop computer, a GPS, and make a little 10 horsepower free energy machine. They could stick it in a tube with 5 sticks of dynamite and a bucket of germs and shove it off the coast of Somalia. They could wind its way through the oceans with the GPS device and go into New York Harbor and blow up. The military has no response to this and will do everything it can to make sure it doesn't happen. This is one of the things that has driven the fact that why we don't have really, really good high-power light batteries for electric cars, because they didn't want them used in covert submarines. This is a fact. There's so many agendas that have been going on. So it's not that they just didn't want free energy machines, they didn't even want a decent battery around. So these agendas, we have all been at fact. It's not positive or negative, it is just a fact.
Okay, I'm beginning to see that.
Yeah, I'm not for it or against it.
No, it's just...
But I'm very glad I live here instead of there. So if these guys think they're protecting this territory and I'm here, okay with me, because it's still really tough in a lot of other places. And if you don't think so, just go down Google Maps and look at downtown Dhaka, Bangladesh, and look at how many people are living in little boats on the river. It's sucky over there, seriously sucky, and I don't want to be there. I'm glad I'm not there, and I thank God every day for the abundance that we have. So I don't blame anybody. I'm just saying we can envision a better world, and it is coming slowly. All we have to do is keep the thoughts and the exchange happening. That's what these conferences are for. We can share our hearts and our thoughts and our ideas in that order.
Peter, what was the...
Where can you get Nightingale Springs?
Yeah, you can get all kinds of things. There's new stuff out there called muscle springs and stuff that they're using in robots and all kinds of things.
Made a Nightingale. So you go on the internet, type in
Nightingale for sale. Nightingale for sale.
You can pick it up in
Dozens of
packages,
companies
they'll send it to you.
stuff.
Yeah.
You can get it, and depending on how much nickel or titanium it is, it depends on where the transition temperature is. You can get it.
You can adjust that.
You can adjust it. You can just contact the company and say, I want some stuff that triggers at 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, I have...
How many spools you want?
And the transition pressure was like 56,000 pounds per square inch or something like
crazy.
that.
Yeah, I said 1,000 times. It's way over.
Yeah, it's huge.
I have a question. When you talked about like making crystal batteries, I kind of was making the assumption that they were different kind of crystal batteries. And so I was...
NITINOL. Nickel, Titanium, Naval Ordnance Lab. That's where the name is.
INOL.
And yeah. N-I-T-I-N-O-L.
I was thinking one question. You know, rare earth. The Chinese own like the manufacture 95% of the rare earth.
The only reason they do is because all the other countries, you know, have EPAs that shut down because they're really nasty to extract. They're really poisonous. Because you get things like osmium and all these other, you know, heavies, you know, that are just poisonous beyond belief. So it's not, the United States has tons of rare earth. It's just that they shut down all the mines.
Right. So I was thinking for magnetics, in the future of magnetics. Right. Hey, well, good job. I just want to say
thank you.
You're a great character, and hope to see you again.
On this, I understand it, but where does the nitro come?
The springs are
The
nitro.
actual spring or night.
The springs are nitro.
Okay, okay, that makes sense now. Just a piston magnet in between, and I assume a magnet here and here, right?
No, the magnet's there. This is just a coil.
Just two small coils.
No, not too small. A coil wrapped all the way around, so the magnet just moves through it.
Pickup coil.
Of course, yeah.
You got the current to create the current. Yeah.
Right.
Faster it goes like this.
Better to put
I got it.
for a spring compresses.
The idea isn't to have given you the best design. The idea is to have given you the idea that we don't have to design things with nitinol that conform to those old ideas of a heat engine. You can think new about it.
You got to calculate.
You don't need a heat source. All you need is a transition
temperature
temperature.
you get under compression.
Yeah.
Once you know how much.
Bong! Now you can see that this thing, the energy comes straight out of the molecular structure, and we don't know what that is, but it will keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it.
We don't really care at
We
that
don't
point.
care where it comes from. There's films on the internet where Ridgway Banks is talking about stuff after the convention in '78, and they're saying, you know, I was talking to my friend about this, and I'm saying, well, where does the energy come from? And the guy looked at him and says, don't ask that question. It's a gift from God. That's sitting on YouTube, okay? So I mean, it's just like, why don't you believe it? That's what it is.
It works.
Perpetual motion is real. Free energy is real.
This is a question I have. When you were talking about making crystal batteries, I thought that.
You get it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I should have had it.
No, the thing is, some of these ideas, like the propeller, took 2,000 years for people to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't take anything for granted anymore. But I'm trying to boil this down to something that's believable.
Actually, part of the challenge is breaking down the walls of what we constantly take for granted.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to find. Okay, this is my question. So, okay, there's like this big chamber, you know, where they have all these crystals in Brazil, and it's so hot, people sweat when they go there, right? Well, crystals have interesting natural properties, just sitting all by themselves without crumbling them and doing stuff with them. And one of the things you can do is you can take a crystal and you can point it towards your hand, and you can feel something coming out.
Oh, absolutely.
And this indicates that they can also somehow, that there's a temperature component, which I don't understand.
No, there's a vital energy component. It doesn't have to be a temperature component.
Okay. So
Well, see, because I can't. Put out your hand.
okay. Oh, well, yes, I work with that stuff.
Well,
No,
fine.
I understand.
Well,
yeah.
that's just all you're getting from the crystal.
So you're saying this kind of operates in a similar way, not the same.
It's embedded in the living
As-
energy field.
Right, in a similar way as
Like
the
we are.
as an organ collector
Yeah.
works.
Or focuser.
Exactly. So, and I would agree with that. Although it's like the organ collector collects, and by the way, like the triple watt, the quadruple watt, the stuff you're using kind of influences what it's collecting, and so by its very nature,
it imparts a quality onto what you're collecting.
I would argue that it's not about imparting a quality. I would argue that it's only collecting what it can relate to.
Fine.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's pull. In other words, it's it's sifting.
Yes,
out,
exactly.
out of everything that could be collected, it's the affinity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
I have no problem with that.
That's the difference between the argument of Sir Isaac Newton that the prism darkened the light versus revealed the nature of it.
Well, the thing is that he only did half the experiment, and Goethe did the other half of the experiment, because when you run sunlight through a slit, through a prism, it projects what we call the forward spectrum. It goes from violet to blue to green to yellow to red. But if you run the light around a thin post and run that into a prism, it projects the reverse spectrum, which goes from blue to it goes from blue to violet to magenta to red to yellow, and doesn't have green.
I've never seen that.
Oh, absolutely.
What's a reference on that?
Goethe's color theory.
Okay, I haven't seen that before. Thank you. Okay. Now, my question has to do with,
we did all this stuff at Borderlands in the 80s.
I used to subscribe before.
We did all this stuff. I published a diagram that you could look at through a prism, and it would show both forward spectrum, backward spectrum, all kinds of stuff. It was right on the same page, so you could see. I mean, Newton was wrong about what a prism did. It does not break light down into its colors. There's no such thing. That's not what it is.
I have to study this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you were to take a crystal and take advantage of some of these natural characteristics, do you know anybody that has done that has tried to use this as a natural crystal, as a power source, and create a battery out of it in its natural form?
No.
Because that's what I want. This is what I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see not only that happen with something small, but something where by understanding the nature of this, you can do something to enhance it, to multiply, to magnify. That's forward. I think that's something.
I'm just saying that. Okay. There are.
Thank you, Peter. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, we can't do this if people don't come.
Build it and they will come. So I'll come back with our custom little motors.
There you go. Do it. Thank you so much. Thanks for thinking about this stuff. That's great. Love it.
I love this. I have those.
I'm still a kid. That's why I've got one too.